Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is well and had a good weekend. Today's learning is dedicated in memory of Shanta ben Gershon Montrose, Gittel Bas Solomon Hochenstein, Herschel ben Yitzchok Martin, Naji ben Murad, as well as Leah Bas Bible, Harav Yaakov Tzvi ben David Aryeh, Sibia Bas Mordechai, Avram ben David Slavin, Shalom ben Yisrael Morris, Super Fekele Bas Ruven, Shalom ben Elia Lee, Ben Bas Bible from Shoshana Bas Yaakov Shmuel, Kayla Bela Bas Henach, and Yirmiyahu Yecheb ben Echav Moshe Elias, and Saramaka Bas Ben Yomin, which each and every one of them and their respective families, long life. So we said we were going to discuss today about the idea of remembrance, zechira, right? Now, clearly, remembrance for a nation and a faith that is the oldest of all faiths, right, is clearly something that is very important. Okay, let's have a look how important it is. Remembrance is a trait without which this world cannot endure. So he starts off by speaking from a practical perspective. All of the dealings of the world are dependent upon remembrance, because if a person would not believe in his friend or lend him anything if he did not remember. So basically, if we don't remember, right, what happened yesterday, then you're never going to trust people. Okay, trust is based on remembrance, on remembering what people have done for you. If people forgot what they had said, they could not do business, and they could not do any conditions if they did not remember. Right? So from a practical perspective, right, we have to remember in order that we know what commitments we've made, what vows are made, right? But it goes far, far beyond that. Remembrance in this chapter, the 19th gate, believe it or not, I didn't think it was, I thought it was going to be relatively short. It is one of the longest gates, and he has over 30 different points about why and how one must remember. So I don't know if we'll go through all of them, but we'll have a look at some of them. So he carries on to say as follows. So if we were to imagine, right, with respect to charity, a person must remember the poor and bring to mind their plight so that he will assist them, right? If you go to a court of law, you have to remember exactly what happened. And we find that beyond that, that's in terms of the individuals, but in terms of the nationhood, remembrance is also fundamental. Think about the mitzvot that we have, the mitzvah of, right, that we have when it comes to tzitzit, right? We wear tzitzit, men wear tzitzit, that in order to remember the other mitzvot that we have, women don't need to because they are more internal. Then we have about Zeichel Etziat Mitzrayim. Remember the going out of Egypt. That is one that remembrance that we have constantly when it comes to so many different aspects of life. We mention in davening, we mention in Kiddush. We don't stop remembering that moment when we became a nation and when we became God's nation. Then we go on and he speaks about the idea of tefillin, and then he goes on to start with his 30 points. So let's have a look at the first one. Remember how the blessed Creator brought you from nothingness into existence. Remember the good that he has done for you from birth until this very nation, and how he has raised and uplifted you above all creatures. And he has done all this not out of any obligation, but gratis. In his great loving kindness, he has bequeathed all this to you, and because of this, you must give thanks. So we started by speaking about in terms of practical considerations. If we don't remember what happened yesterday, if we have amnesia or selective memory, then it is a breakdown in society. No one remembers what happened yesterday. I don't remember that I lent you money, right? I don't remember that you did a kindness for me, and you end up with a society which is very insular and distrustful of each other. So therefore, he goes on to talk about the fact that when it comes to so much of our nationhood, it is an imperative that we remember what came before us. We're not a nation that lives in the past, right? But we are a nation very much that lives with the past. So therefore, we learn from the past. We carry it forwards with us. And therefore, he goes on to say about the idea that we have so much to remember and to tap into. Think about it, even on a relational level. Think about your spouses, right? Just for one moment, or think about people that you love, your kids, your nephews, nieces, whoever it is, grandchildren. The basis of so much of the gratitude and appreciation that we have in life is what? Is the fact that we recall, we remember, right? And the gift of remembrance which we have, right? We have long-term memory and we have short-term memory. And very often, even if a person suffers memory loss, usually it's the short-term memory that goes, but remembering where they came from, remembering their childhood, remembering their parents, that very rarely goes. It was interesting. I was with a family the other day, and the lady's not well. She's got dementia, and what became abundantly clear is that she couldn't remember what happened 2 seconds ago, but she could remember, her past. She could remember her family. She could remember her marriage, and therefore she still had an awareness, right, about the perspective of her life, about where she came from, which is so important. And that is also not just in terms of our relationships with other people, which very often when we are overly critical or when we become negative, we're not looking at the whole picture. We're failing. We're selecting which things we decide to focus on and which things we decide to zoom out on. The only way that we can truly have a composite picture and be able to make a judgment call, if we should ever, is if we look at the whole picture. Okay, if we look at the whole picture, and that's remembering, everything that came before it. So you have to take into account the person's upbringing, their background, the challenges that they've faced, right? Their strengths, their weaknesses. Only when we remember all of that are we in a position to actually make some type of appraisal or judgment about a person. So that applies not just between us and our fellow human being, but it also applies, and good morning to everyone that are still joining us, it also applies between us and our Creator. So often we turn around and we feel or we say or we think, I just feel I've got such a hard life. I don't feel that I've got what I deserve. Other people seem to have it much better than me, right? I don't think it's right, and we complain and we're angry with God about the way we've been treated and the lot that we have in life. Whereas, in reality, point number one that he makes is that you have to remember that God created us in the first place, and remember the good, right? Of course, with partners of a father and a mother, but he was the co-creator. And remember the good that he has done to you from birth until this day. Remember all the kindnesses that he has done with us. We forget, and I'm not trying to preach. Honestly, I'm not, even though I'm a rabbi. But there was a story about I don't know if you know the ice bucket challenge. Anyone ever heard of that? I'm sure David Diamond's heard of it. Then David, did you do the ice bucket challenge? So anyways, the ice bucket challenge, I think it went back to 2014. I think it went back to then, something like that. And it became, although it had been around for a while, there was one guy that made it famous. You'll look on BBC afterwards. I can't remember his name, but sadly he had ALS and his body wasted away, and he died this morning. He died yesterday. And the point being that it is so easy for us to have a sense of ingratitude and not to truly appreciate all the aspects of our life that are blessings. It's so easy for us to hone in and to focus on what we feel, that thing I'm missing, that thing I need. What about everything else? You got 99%, right, of the things that you feel that you should have, and in your perspective, you got 1% that you don't have. That's the first point. We'll do one more and then we'll stop for today. One must remember the blessings, Hashem loving kindness with him, as demonstrated by his being healthy in all his limbs, as I just said. If one of them became diseased and a doctor healed it, how beholden and grateful would he be to that doctor? how much more so should he or she be grateful to the blessed Hashem for having made a person whole and healthy in all of our limbs. And I mentioned before about one of the people. He was I think it was Dr. He was a man that just passed away in Israel, and he was an author, he was a teacher, and he had this debilitating disease. I think it was the same one, ALS. Anyways, he was able to create books, writing with his eyes on the computer. And one of the most amazing things was this guy that had, so little movement of his body, of his faculties, couldn't speak properly by the end, and yet he was filled with joy and happiness for what he was able to do. So remembering all the blessings that we have, remembering everything that we have, and where it comes from, will give us a right perspective to life, and in particular in the COVID pandemic which we are going through. Still waiting for answers. Should we shut down or lock down? And maybe the Jewish community should be stringent when the government does allow Xmas to be open for business. I await your thoughts. Now, right, let's do the memorial, Psalm 23, and then after that we'll do the memorial prayer. So, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Even when I walk in the valley of darkness, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil, and my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Adonai Olamim Zocho es nishmais. Le'abas Baivo Rav Yaakov Tzvi David ben Aryeh, Tzvi Bas Mordechai, Avram ben David Slavin, Shlomo ben Yisrael Morris, Tzipora Begla Bas Reuven Baruch, Shalom ben Elili, Ben Bas Baivo from Ashans, Yaakov Shmuel, Kela Bela Bas Hanach, Yirmiyah Yechid ben Echav Moshe Eliezer, Sarah Malka Bas Ben Yomin, and the yortzites for today. Shada Bas Gershon Montrose, Gito Bas Solomon Hochenstein, Herschel ben Yitzchok, Martin Naji ben Murat, Khalil Amam Bagan Eden Tevenu Hasan Achim ben Rachabim, Yasiem Besita Kana Babilolamim, Vietzavet Chaim Zishmasam Adonai Nachlasam, Yanuch Bishamash Gavam, Ben Amar, Amen. Just before we'll say hello and good morning to everyone. Apologies. Good morning to Peter, Michelle, Richard, Powell, Michael, Estelle, Rachel with a sunny smile, Carol, Mervyn, David, who didn't do the challenge, Richard, and David again. Good morning, everyone. Refuah Shalema. Richard is with you. Okay, thank you. Bavo shanu mispalim bavo ram bis chazakash baruch hu yimale rachum aleihem lachum lefosam yishlach lem fushlim nishmaim necholvem besoch shachol Yisrael refuah shanefesh v'sagov hashtag magazmakarev and amar amen, as well as to Richard Mendel. Sorry, there are two Richards. So good morning, everyone. It's a refreshing perspective that we just shared. The first idea of remembrance. Firstly, we need remembrance to understand and appreciate the kindnesses that other people do with us, and therefore to remember also our responsibilities in life. But secondly, in terms of the Almighty, to recognize when we are feeling rather negative and critical and grumbling about what we don't have and what we feel we are entitled to look at the whole picture, the whole vista, the beautiful life that we have. So much we have to be appreciative about. We'll continue with this tomorrow. Have a great day. Keep safe. Look after yourselves.